All right, guys, today we're going to look at sources of finance for businesses. And again, like always, please pause the video to copy the notes down. There are two types of financing, basically external and internal. So external is when, obviously, the finances is coming from outside the business. And again, within external financing, there are two types. There's debt financing, where you are taking on finance that you have to repay. The examples here are things like your bank overdraft or a mortgage, long and short term. You need to understand what each of these terms mean. Later slides will go into the definitions of it. And things like factoring. There is normally always a question in the HSC exam on factoring. External equity financing is when you are selling shares or ownership in the company. You don't have to pay this back, obviously, but you also end up losing some of the control of your company. And typically, if you are making profits, you're paying some of that profit to the owners of the shares. Internal financing is basically when you're doing it all yourself, either by increasing your equity, putting some of your own money into the business to keep it going or to improve it, or most typically retaining the profits. So if your business is making a good profit, you're keeping some of the money in the business to help it grow. So again, here's some definition of the types of internal sources of finance. Make sure you copy these notes down and become familiar with these terms. You need to know the difference between debt financing and equity financing. And again, a good graphic showing all of these. Make sure you're familiar with these. And so remember, an overdraft is where your bank will allow you to go below zero in your account for a short period of time. They charge interest on the money that you owe them below zero, and then when you get paid by your suppliers or when the cash comes in, you go back to zero and your bank go back to the positive again. It's a great way just to iron out little issues in cash flow. It's a very common tool used by many businesses. Commercial bills, less common, but basically, as it says here, it's effectively an IOU for the business. Factoring is something that is a very useful way to improve your cash flow. Businesses that basically, if you're sending out, for example, a $100,000 bill to your customer and they're taking a while to pay it and you need to pay your supplier, you don't have the cash, you could sell that accounts receivable, that $100,000, to a third party who will then use that, basically collect that debt over time, but they'll give you cash up front. The $100,000 will typically be about $95,000. So you lose a bit of your profit, but you're improving your cash flow. So it's not something that businesses want to use all the time, but it's a useful tool to stop them running into liquidity issues. A mortgage is basically when you're buying against, you're securing a loan against property. Would be a factory or large land purchase, a farm, for example, for a farmer. The security is the property itself. A debenture is a capital raising issued by companies. Basically, it's a fixed period and it's a fixed rate of interest. Basically, people will put up money into that debenture because it's a guaranteed return, effectively, as long as the company doesn't go bankrupt in the meantime. But guaranteed rate of return is very attractive for a safe investment. An unsecured note is a similar type of thing, but it doesn't have any assets, basically, guaranteeing it. So it's much higher risk, therefore it has a higher rate of return as long as the business survives to be able to pay it back.